Why doesn't anybody ever want to meet Ringo?
Hey guys, Dalek44 here. I need no introduction, but I've got one anyway. I'm sure all you Whovians and movie lovers out there have heard the sad news about John Hurt. Famous English actor and voice actor Sir John Hurt passed away on the 25th of January 2017 at the age of 77. He appeared in many films and TV shows and left a huge legacy behind him. So to commemorate this wonderful actor who's been around for 77 years, I've decided to review something that he's been in that I love a lot. Doctor Who, The Day of the Doctor. The Day of the Doctor is a special episode of the British science fiction television programme Doctor Who, marking the programme's 50th anniversary. It was shown on BBC One on the 23rd of November 2013 in both 2D and 3D. And it was shown in cinemas around the country as well in 3D. So after the show turning 50 in 2013, then you think they put a lot of time, care and effort into making the 50th anniversary special that was shown on TVs and in cinemas in 3D? Well, get out your sonic screwdrivers, let's find out. Before I go into the main story of the actual special, there were two mini-episodes written by Stephen Moffat to help build up for the special. First there was The Night of the Doctor, where Paul McGann reprised his role as the 8th Doctor to regenerate into the War Doctor played by John Hurt. And The Last Day was the first-person perspective of a Gallifreyan soldier who had just joined the Academy and joined the war to fight against the Daleks in the Time War, which builds up to the fall of Arcadia, which we then see in the actual special. Now on to the Day of the Doctor. The 11th Doctor and Clara Oswald are taken to Trafalgar Square by a military organisation unit headed by Kate Stewart. Kate gives the Doctor instructions from Elizabeth I of England that name him curator of the Undergallery, a secret vault housed at the National Gallery in London. Upon entering the gallery, the Doctor is shown a three-dimensional painting made with Time Lord stasis cubes depicting the fall of Gallifrey's second city, Arcadia. And then we cut to a flashback of the last day of the Time War between the Time Lords and the Daleks. The War Doctor, which is an unknown incarnation of the Doctor that came before Doctor No. 8 and Doctor No. 9, decides to trigger an ancient weapon called the Moment in order to destroy both sides completely to end the war. The Moment is sentient and manifests itself as Rose Tyler, played by Billie Piper. Willing to help the Doctor decide what the best way to save Gallifrey and defeat the Daleks is, the Moment offers to show him what he'll turn into if he destroys Gallifrey, linking him to the 10th and 11th Doctors. The three Doctors converge in the year 1562, where the 10th Doctor is proposed to get married to Elizabeth I and is tracking down a Zygon. They discover that the Zygon is disguised as Queen Elizabeth, who capture and imprison them in the Tower of London. Meanwhile, back in present-day London, within UNIT's Black Archive, Clara learns that the Zygons from Elizabethan England had entered the three-dimensional paintings in the Undergallery and have emerged in 2013, taking the forms of UNIT members so that they could utilise UNIT's weapons and technology and, you guessed it, take over the world. Clara manages to outwit the Zygons by using a time vortex manipulator to travel back to 1562 and help the Doctors. The three Doctors and Clara discover that the Zygons' plans were to take over the world as soon as it was modern enough for them after their world was destroyed in the first days of the Time War. Ready to return to the future and save London from the Zygons, the 10th Doctor gets married to Elizabeth I, and the three Doctors rush off in their TARDISes to help save the world from the Zygons. The Doctors manage to return to 2013 London and manage to persuade the Zygons and UNIT to stop the countdown that would destroy Earth, by erasing their memories, making them negotiate a peace treaty, which we will see the details of later on in the series. The Doctor, now convinced that detonating the Moment will save many more lives in the longer term, is returned to his time by the Moment. The other two Doctors follow him in their TARDISes with the intention of helping him so as to share his burden. After Clara reminds them their choice of the title Doctor and what it stands for, the Doctors devise an alternative solution. So being a Whovian myself, what are my thoughts of the 50th anniversary special? It's one of the best Doctor Who stories I've ever seen. As this is the show's 50th anniversary special, the episode contains multiple references to previous episodes. The opening title sequence uses the same title sequence from the 1963 series when the show first aired. There's also a policeman walking past the sign for I Am Foreman, which was the scrapyard where the TARDIS was parked in the first ever episode. Clara Oswald also has a job at Coal Hill School, which is where the Doctor's granddaughter Susan attended on Earth in 1963. And the school was also featured in the 1988 episode Remembrance of the Daleks. And Kate Stewart's sister Osgood wears the 4th Doctor's really long scarf. And the 10th Doctor's era is heavily revisited. His marriage to Elizabeth I, mentioned in the Shakespeare Code and the End of Time, is finally depicted. There was even mentions of the word Bad Wolf from the Rose Tyler era. The Black Archive contains alien artifacts and collected by units, and it also has photographs of the Doctor's many companions. It also contains many other artifacts, including Riverson's high heels, a Cyberman's head, and much more. This episode also gives us a brief appearance of the 12th Doctor, played by Peter Capaldi, only seen by eyes and forehead. This episode has so many references to the show's 50-year history that you have to be a die-hard Doctor Who fan to even notice the first time round. The 11th Doctor, played by Matt Smith, is the fun, eccentric Doctor that loves fezzes and bow ties. As always, Matt Smith does a brilliant job as the Doctor. He captures the cleverness and the silliness and the energeticness of the character. Like in every episode he was in, he gives a superb performance. And it's my guess that Matt Smith must have been having a hell of a lot of fun working on this special. Especially when working off of David Tennant and Sir John Hurt.
Hello, ladies. Don't start. Listen, what you get up to in the privacy of your own generation is your business. One of them is a Zygon. I'm not judging you.
The 10th Doctor, played by David Tennant, is my personal favourite Doctor, as he's the Doctor that got me into the show properly. As soon as I heard that David Tennant was coming back for the special, I was absolutely excited, because David Tennant's my Doctor. And as a lot of you probably know already, he was the one that got me into the show properly. And when I first heard that David Tennant and Billy Piper were going to come back, I honestly thought that this was going to be from some time before the events of Doomsday, mainly because Rose Tyler was in it. But then when I discovered that Billy Piper was actually playing the Moment in Rose Tyler's form, it was revealed that this was set before the Doctor's adventure in the End of Time Part 1 and Part 2. And David Tennant is just superb as the character. In fact, watching this special along with the other David Tennant specials, I don't think he looks a day older than when his last appearance was in the show.
Cleanser law. We need a new destination. I don't want to go. You assess that.
And the War Doctor, played by the late John Hurt, is the Doctor's warrior-like forgotten incarnation. The War Doctor came between the 8th and 9th Doctors and renounced the title of the Doctor since he was fighting in the Time War. As I've mentioned in my Thomas Sember review of Sodor Sundred of the Lost Treasure, Sir John Hurt is a great actor and has played so many great characters over the years. And the War Doctor is definitely one of his best in my opinion. Yes, as I mentioned in Sodor Sundred of the Lost Treasure, John Hurt's performances are always superb, and this performance is no exception. He may have ended the Time War with a pretty bad result, but you really do feel sorry for him and you know what he's going through. He doesn't want to do it, but he feels that he has no choice. And the End of Time Part 2 reveals why the Doctor had to end the war the way he thought he did, to stop Vassalon from destroying all of time.
So I will remember that I tried to save Gallifrey rather than burn it. I have to live with that. But for now, for this moment, I am the Doctor again.
And even though we don't get to see Christopher Eccleston as the 9th Doctor in this special outside of stock footage, it is quite nice to see John Hurt's regeneration into Christopher Eccleston, even if it is just a picture of Eccleston. It's just really nice to finally see the regeneration in between the 9th and the 8th Doctors. As for the rest of the cast, there's Clara Oswald, played by Jenna Louise Coleman, who's the Doctor's companion at the time. This was the first time in the show, in my opinion, that she stopped being a plot device for the show, since when she was first introduced she was known as the Impossible Girl who kept appearing in the Doctor's lives. And then it was revealed why she appeared that many times. So from this point on she stops being a plot device and starts being more of a character and a companion to the Doctor. And Jenna gives a great performance in this special. And like all the other companions before her, Jenna Coleman just gives a great performance as Clara. And like in the series, she's always able to help the Doctor out of some tight scrapes. Then there's the Moment, played by Billie Piper, who takes the likeness of Rose Tyler, a sentient Gallifreyan weapon with mass destruction. She's the one who helps the War Doctor discover how to end the Time War without any disastrous results. At first you would think that it is Rose Tyler, but when she mentions that she's actually the Moment's sentient, then you actually discover that it's not Rose Tyler at all, just someone who looks like Rose. And I think that was a pretty clever twist in this special. There's Brigadier Ledbridge's Stuart's daughter, Kate, played by Gemma Redgrave, who had previously appeared in The Power of Three. I see Kate Stewart as being very much like her father, an employee of UNIT, but sometimes trying to find a more peaceful resolution to the Doctor's confrontations with alien life forms. But she's also got an edgy side to her as well, as she's also got some methods that the Doctor doesn't approve of. So that makes her this century's Brigadier, but with a slight twist. And I think that's a little more interesting than just recycling a previous character. And there's her sister Osgood, played by Ingrid Oliver, who likes to wear the Fourth Doctor's iconic scarf. She's seen as a huge fan of the Doctor and knows that the Doctor will save them. No matter how long she has to wait, she just knows that the Doctor will save the world. And I really like that in this character. She has no idea how the Doctor's going to save the world or when he's going to save the world, she just knows that he's going to save them all. And there's many other characters in this special too, like Queen Elizabeth I, the General of Gallifrey, the Curator played by Tom Baker, and many others.
Perhaps I was you, of course. Or perhaps you upped me. Yeah. Or perhaps it doesn't matter either way. Who knows? Who knows?
And the villains of this special are the Zygons and the Daleks. The Zygons are shape-shifting aliens that can take the form of any life form, which is how they blend in with the crowd, as they say. These aliens haven't been seen since this 1970s story, Terror of the Zygons. And I really thought this was a really good reintroduction, as well as an introduction to the fans that had never seen them before. So it works both ways for the fans who've seen them before in the 70s, and for the fans who've never seen them before, like myself. Even though the Zygons did make their comeback in this special after God knows how many years of not being in the show, they wouldn't get a major comeback until Series 9. Which actually carries on from where this episode left off. But the main villains of this story are the Daleks, voiced by Nicholas Briggs. The Daleks fought in the Time War against the Time Lords on Gallifrey. And even though they're not seen as much in the special, it's obvious that they're the main villains because the Time War finished the main story, while the Zygon finished a side story that would later on be finished in Series 9. And the biggest highlight in this special for me is that we finally got to see the Battle of the Time War, even if it was just the last day. But this was the first time we got to see the Battle of the War in full detail. Of course we did get a glimpse of the effects of the war in the End of Time Part 2, and we also got to see some of the survivors of the war, including the Dalek from Dalek, the Dalek Emperor, the Cult of Skaro, the Master, and Davros, as well as hearing some of the after effects it had on other species, including the Nesting Consciousness, the Gelf, Eve's species, and probably many others. But this was the first time we got to see the war in full detail. And that's really awesome. And I'd say that it was definitely worth the wait because the results didn't disappoint. And if you're like me, then you will know that the Doctor Who special was shown in cinemas around the country, like Cineworld, View, Odeon, and Showcase Cinema Deluxe. And if you go to see the film in the cinemas, then you would see an introduction featuring Dan Starkey as Strat, and John Hurt, David Tennant, and Matt Smith as the Doctors, retrospectively. And if you've collected the 50th Anniversary Collector's Edition like I have, then those cinema introductions would have been shown on the DVD. And my personal favourite cinema introduction is the one with Strat, as he goes through various cinema rules in a very Sontarany way, and who could ever forget the classic,
Remember, popcorn can feel pain.
I friggin' love that line. This special's visual effects are really amazing compared to the previous episodes and specials for Doctor Who. Like when you look at the Dalek ships alone, there's just so much detail on them compared to when you first saw them in The Parting of the Ways. The BBC in Wales have really outdone themselves with the CG effects in this special. Like when you look at the Dalek ships above Gallifrey, there's so much detail on them compared to how they were first introduced in 2005. And that really shows you how the CG has come a long way since the TV series began in 2005. And it's honestly pretty impressive for TV budget CG. And just looking at a lot of the visuals in this special, you would have thought that this was from the TV budget. Like when you watch this thing, it actually really does feel like a movie. Like it just has to me it just has the production and the visuals, and it just feels very movie-like. So to me, The Day of the Doctor will always be one of the best Doctor Who episodes ever, and one of Sir John Hurt's finest performances. This special is definitely one of the best Doctor Who stories I've ever seen in years. It's got great actors, great threats, great effects, great writing, and just a great movie feel about it. And it's one of the many great performances that the late John Hurt participates in. And if you haven't seen it yet, then I would highly recommend it for any Doctor Who fan or BBC television fan in general. You'll get a kick out of it and you'll love every second of it. And as you may or may not already know, I've got the collector's edition of the 50th anniversary special, which contains the special and all the other stuff that came out during the 50th anniversary of the show. And you know what? In honour of John Hurt, I'm gonna put the John Hurt cup on the front to commemorate his memory. Here we are. For you, John Hurt. Everybody raise up your sonic screwdrivers to Sir John Hurt, one of the greatest actors of all time.
Popcorn can feel pain.